I'm so glad to be with you over these next 2 Sundays. I have heard about this special place for years, and some of my favorite clergy, mentors, and friends have been some of your visiting clergy over that time. Nat Katz, particularly, is a dear friend and a colleague, and this is a big weekend for him, and I'm grateful to be taking the baton from him today and next Sunday. You could say that the letter to the Romans is Paul's magnum opus. It is his great reflection on what the gospel is and what it means for our lives. And this Sunday and next, we get 2 rich passages from the same part of that letter, one after the other. So in essence, this is one homily on Romans in 2 parts. And particularly, Paul in these weeks is reflecting upon the role of the Spirit. Paul spends a lot of time and energy talking about the interplay or the tension between the Spirit and what he calls the flesh. And Paul really, this is his way of talking about the human condition. All of us wrestle with it. No one gets out of this reality. And it doesn't matter how much we've gained in our faith or experience. You and I are all pulled within ourselves between those things where we get overly concerned with our own well-being and the pull that we always have by the gift of the Spirit to be concerned with others. The Spirit is how God remakes us more and more into the image of Christ. But within all of us, there's this tension, this groaning, as the reading says, and it leads us at times for the capacity to hurt one another and to hurt ourselves. We embody the words which Paul says earlier in this letter about doing the very thing he hates and not doing the thing that is good for him. We are a complex lot like Paul. And we remember that Paul goes from being the chief prosecutor, the chief persecutor of Christians in the early days after Jesus' death, and then turns into his chief evangelist. You and I all have the capacity to turn, to change in this life, but that groaning within us is still there, and it always will be. I imagine there are some people like Paul in your life, people who maybe have made a change, or people who are complex and complicated, some of us more than others. But the Spirit is something we are promised today that comes to all of us. It's a gift, not of our own making, nothing we can do to earn it or have it go away. But it gives us a gift of grounding, of perspective. I imagine in your life there are people who are particular examples of this gift, who know who they are and whose they are, who somehow have a knowledge that they're beloved and also that they might have concern for others. I think it's so interesting when we think about those people. Often they are folks who have gone through quite a struggle, have had a complicated life, folks who know what the tension of life is, and somehow that suffering, that groaning, as Paul says, is maybe a guide for the Spirit to make a change in their life more and more. The Spirit is not ours to give, only ours to receive, but it is ours to give back out into the world through our lives. The Spirit is what has brought all of us together today, from various different parts of the world, those watching online, those in person. And the Spirit is the gift which helps us model what kind of life it is to live in the Spirit for one another, concerned not just for ourselves alone. One of my favorite blessings, which we'll say at the end of this service, speaks about this reality that we all know something of a hardness of life, and that might be the guide for how we are bearing witness to the Spirit for one another. It goes like this: "Go forth from this place and be kind. Everyone here in one way or another carries something heavy. So love mercy, practice forgiveness, and be gentle with yourself. And show God's unconditional love and acceptance to yourself and to everyone you meet." May we be that bearer of the Spirit to one another. Amen.